Our first song is number 460, As Water to the Thirsty. Sing it. I was wondering why they weren't starting. Our next song is number 406, We Know Not the Hour. What did I say? 604. Oh, 604, sorry. Oh, please stand. I really don't know what I'm doing. We know not the be seated.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you all had a good night's sleep. I just have a few announcements for you. I didn't mention last night that where we are is famous for ticks. So I just want to warn you, as long as you stay on the roads and in the open spaces, you're probably going to be fine. But if you decide to go on a trek in the woods, be prepared to be picking ticks off unless you put on some insect spray before you left. So if anybody wants to go out in the woods and you need some bug spray, I have some. Otherwise, just watch out for the ticks because they're out there. Also, I talked this morning at breakfast about if you had signed up for doing any of the cleanup help while we were down at breakfast. The list for that is on the wall, and I also posted the list of instructions. I realized that it wasn't there. I thought it was there still from last year, but it was not. So I reposted that. So the instructions are down there, so check for your name, and then you can see what you need to do. We also have some magazines in the back to give away, so make sure you take some of those that you can share with others. And there's also a prayer request box on the table in the back. So if anyone has a prayer request that you would like our prayer team to be praying over this weekend, then just put that in the box back there. Also on Sabbath afternoon, we will be having a testimony and praise time here. So if you would like to share during that time, please let me know sometime today or tomorrow, and I will get you on the list for that. Also, I want to make sure that you all have turned off your cell phones so they're not interrupting the meeting. So check and make sure that you have your cell phones silenced. And I think that's all we have for our announcements today. So we're going to get right on with the message.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, there's no voice. Did you have a good sleep? Yes, I had a very good sleep as well. And I like it when I sleep well. It doesn't always happen. But last night I slept very well. So, maybe before we go into the meeting this morning, we start with a prayer. Amen. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the good night's rest. Thank you so much for the love that you've provided for us. Thank you so much for the message that you've given us. Will you help us this morning that we may have fresh minds and be able to think about the message that's been shared. And I pray, Lord, that you will help us not to accept anything except it passes by our measurement. I pray that you will help us, that we will learn how to analyze and how to think, so that we may only believe that which comes from you. And I pray that you will be with us as we come to understand how that exactly works. In Jesus' name, amen. So, my clicker is coming, or whatever the name is for that. Thank you. Let's put this here, so I can move around a little bit. Oh, I don't. That's a good question. Where do we have it? It's over here? Yes, thank you. So it goes. It has some issues. Yeah, well, let's see if it works anyway. Yeah, it works anyway. It complains, but it still works. Very good. So the topic for this morning is the topic, if we know ourselves. Do we know ourselves? I have a fun little story to start with. When I was in university, right after the situation with quitting the boyfriend, I moved to Copenhagen from Jutland. Jutland is the mainland of Denmark that stuck to Germany. If you don't know much about Denmark, it's no wonder. It's a very, very small country up north in Europe, and it has only 5 million people. So it could fit into the US many, many times. But I moved from the greater part of Denmark, the mainland, where I grew up very up north, a little bit more north than where I live now. And then I moved to Copenhagen. I had been living in different places before that as well, but I moved to Copenhagen, which is on the island. It's the capital city on the bigger island of Denmark. And I'm quite a country girl, so coming to this, in my opinion, big city of 1 million people was a bit of a challenge for me, because I like to have the fields and the mud and the cows very close to me, and the beach as well. You have the beach in Copenhagen as well, but it's a fake beach. They made it up, you know. They transported the sand so it looks nice even inside the city part of Amager. And the great difficulty was also that I didn't have a place to live. So in 4 weeks or 3 weeks, I think I moved 5 different places. I started by, when I moved to Copenhagen, I lived 2 weeks on the floor of 2 girlfriends I had. They had an apartment, I lived on their floor. And then after that, I went a week with they had this introduction week for the university class, so I stayed there for a week. And then when I was done with that, I stayed a week in an apartment. One of the girls that I lived with before, her sister and her boyfriend was finding another place to live, so I could live on the floor in this apartment that nobody lived in, that had no furniture. It had just a few, like 3 plates and a spoon or something like this. And I stayed there for a couple of weeks. And I don't know how much time passed by, maybe 3 or 4 weeks I lived there. I don't remember exactly. And then I had some friends nearby, north of Copenhagen, and they could have me staying for a week as well. And in the end, I had a girlfriend that I was planning on moving in together with, because it's quite expensive to live in the city, so we would share an apartment. And she had a temporary home with some people from a church up north of Copenhagen. And the lady in that house, she thought it was very enjoyable to have this young lady staying with her. So she said, she came to me, there was a camp meeting in the fall, and she came over to me and she said, "You're Michele, are you?" I was like, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, I don't know how my husband will take it, but surely you can come and live with us." And so we moved in with them, and we stayed there for 3 months actually, before we could move into our apartment in Copenhagen. And we didn't pay, I mean, they were a very lovely couple. We didn't pay any rent. So our rent was to cook twice a week and to do the cleaning of the house. It was quite a big house, and they had a dog with a skin disease, actually. So the dog was losing its hair everywhere. And so we cleaned every week, and we made dinner. And then we stayed there for free, and we used their cars as much as we would like, as long as they didn't use them. And it was the first time I ever draw an automatic car, because they had this old Jag. It's called a Jaguar? Yeah, Jag. And it was it was a cool car. I mean, it was old-fashioned and nice-looking, and we could drive around this car however much we wanted. But I didn't like it so much, because it was automatic, but it was kind of slow in accelerating. So when you accelerated and you were in how do you say, when you have the lights? The traffic lights, and you wanted to drive, and it was very slow reacting, so I was afraid the other one behind me would get impatient before I made it over the traffic light. But on the other hand, the brake was quite sensitive, So I just had to touch it a little bit and it would break quite rapidly. So I didn't like it too much. But when you figure out how it works, you can still drive the car, yeah? But you need to know how it works, sure? And this is the same with us. If we don't know how we work, then how can we drive our own machinery? How will we steer the car if we don't know where's the speeder, where's the brake, how to be sensitive, how to feel the touch of the car, yeah? Now, while we were living with this couple, they were out of town because the parents of the lady were from England. So they went to England to see her parents one weekend. And we had my girlfriend's boyfriend coming over to eat dinner with us. And while he was there, he or my girlfriend, I don't remember, they spilled some candlelight on the tablecloth. And I didn't know the people that we were living with that well. I had only been staying there for a short time, and she'd been there for a long while. But I, got a little bit fearful, because I thought, I've only been here for so long, and we have now destroyed the tablecloth. So we wanted to wash the tablecloth, and we went to the washing machine. And it's quite a funny story when you look back on it. But when I was in the situation, I didn't find it enormously funny. So what happened is that we put the tablecloth in the machine, and now my girlfriend, she put the soap where the fabric softener goes. And what happens when you put the soap where the fabric softener goes? This happens, yeah? The foam just comes out of the machine in every opening it has. So now we had a tablecloth that was not nice looking, and we had a washing machine that seems to be breaking. And we got a control over the foam, and she almost had her whole body into the machine, digging out all the foam and trying to put the cloth back in and getting all things in order. And then the next day, there is a water damage to the house, and it goes through the floor. I mean, the washing machine was in the basement, so it could not be us. But the sink upstairs, it started draining through the floor. And so we had to call them in England and tell them, the house is falling apart. It was quite difficult for me to handle. But the idea is, of course, if you put the soap where it's not supposed to go, what happens? Damage happens, yeah? Or, I mean, you can, in this situation, it's fixable. And of course, it is the same with us. If we put fuel or food or something in the body that's not supposed to go there, what happens? We break it, yeah. So we need to know how we work and by what we work, yeah? But we also need to know where is the starting point. Because we can put the soap in the right place and the fabric softening in the right place, and even we know the water will come out in the right place if it's plugged up to the water connection or to a water supply. And then you put your clothes within the machine, and you close the door and you leave it, and what happens? Nothing. You gotta turn it on. And for a time, I was asking God, why do you not take away my depression and my addictions? What are depression and addictions? Is it cause or is it effect? Effect. So can God change the effects? Yes, we saw yesterday, I will show you again, that everything in nature is dependent on God, so God controls everything on the side of effect. So God can take away the depression. But why doesn't he do this? Who controls the power plug of the human being? Someone says God. Who controls the power plug of the human being? The human being.
You mean who controls where we are plugged into?
Yes, so the washing machine doesn't wash anything except it's plugged into a power source. Yeah? And the same thing is with the human being. There must be a power supply. Who's the supplier? Who has the power? God has the power. Who has the power plug? Who controls the power plug of the human being? The human being controls the power plug of the human being. Yeah? You see, if the power plug goes to the right kind of power, to the right amount of power, what will happen? It will work well. If it goes to the right source of supply, then it will work well. But if the power plug is connected to the wrong kind of power, what happens? It'll blow up. Exactly. If you put the power plug in the wrong place, the machine will blow up. Or it won't work well, at least. Yeah. Now, what is depression and addictions? The effect of what? Yes, but before the wrong source, the source is outside of you. But what is inside of you? Yes, but what becomes before the thought? Beliefs. What are beliefs, though? If beliefs come before thoughts, do they come before thoughts? Or? What are beliefs? What are beliefs? Are beliefs a standard, or are beliefs subjective? The standard is what? Oh, okay. We go on a little bit before we break our legs. See, we have essential knowledge that we need to know. And we learned yesterday that we must have something objective to be a standard. Yeah? So what's objective in nature? The laws of nature. And what is also unchangeable in nature is the human being, his structure, his function, and his nature. Yeah? So in the universe, God created the whole world, or the whole universe, so that nothing can exist or function by itself, and nothing can function or do anything for itself. Everything works as a channel, and all things created takes to give and works in an altruistic circuit. Now this is the fundamental law of everything. As you said before, there must be a source, and then there must be a power plug to connect to the source, and in the other end we have the effects. So, what comes between the power source and the effect of depression and addiction? What is in between the two? Yes, the channel. So that's the human being, but the human being as the channel produces the thoughts, yeah? So what comes between the channel, or what is in the channel between the human being and his creator? The power plug. Exactly. Who controls that power plug? Who controls the connection to the source of power? Thank you. Very lovely. We do. So why does God not take away my depression and my anxiety? Because he wants to show me that I am not controlling the power plug in the right way. Yeah? So God leaves the effect, or he makes the effect, but he makes them as a result of my wrong connection. That I might learn to control what is in my control, and leave God to control what is in God's control. Okay? So, as we saw yesterday, the law of God in nature, he made the whole universe to function according to this law, that everything works as a channel, it must take to give. And it's visible in nature so that we may learn how we work, and so that we may learn how to work in the right way instead of working in the wrong way. Another thing we can observe in nature is that some things are unchangeable and some things are changeable. Now, on the side of changeable things, we have size, or we have color and appearance. We all have different hair colors, there's different eye colors, and we're not all the same height or the same weight or the same, how do you say, some are more skinny, some are more heavily built, yeah? I mean, not necessarily big, but just differently built. But what is unchangeable are the laws of nature that determines function. So wherever you look to nature, you will find the same principle of function. Everyone, if he throws a stone, everyone must throw the stone in the same way of throwing, yeah? You cannot throw this, I don't know if anyone can throw the stone with the ear, but I don't think so. And nobody will be able to walk with their tongue or see or do anything with their hair. Yeah? So we have different places where function is set and the principles remain the same. And then there is also structure. We may look at two different people and we would see that the appearance is different, but they both have two eyes and two noses, or two noses, but we don't see that, but inside, on the inside it's two, and we have two ears and so on. So in this way, structure is set and it's all the same. And the function of the human being is exactly the same, even though we have different parts and even female and male parts, but the principle of function is the same, and it always works according to the laws of nature that sets the function. Yeah? So now every species also have needs. And you may have, if you take a human being and compare him to a tree, there are different needs, yeah? But the needs of the tree, if you take two fine trees, will they always have the same need? Yes. Inside your own species, you always find the same kind of needs, and they do not change. So we may have different preferences. Some people like broccoli, some people like fruits better, but the need of food is the same. Yeah? And there are things that fit the body as a need, and there are things that we can take in that does not fit the body. Yeah? Nobody likes to eat dirt because it's not smart. It doesn't fit the need of the body. Yeah? So in nature we find the law that life depends on needs fulfilled. If we stay inside in the middle of the road, where all needs are fulfilled and met, we will have normal function and we will work well. Now, if we go to the edge and some of our needs are not met anymore, then what do we get? Dysfunction. Now, if we don't turn around and we don't stop and fulfill the needs, then what happens? No function. We end up dying. I mean, for the human being, it must be death. For a machine, it will just be no function. Yeah? If you don't have the needs that are necessary, then the machine stops functioning. If you put the wrong thing in, then what happens? If you put the gasoline in the diesel car, what happens? Then it breaks. Yeah? So we can put the wrong thing in the machinery of the human being, and what happens? Eventually, it breaks. Yeah? Now, how many kinds of needs does the human being have? Sorry? How many kinds or types of needs do we have? Two different kinds. What kinds? And physical or chemical needs. So we have the physical and chemical needs And unfortunately, I didn't calculate this into Fahrenheit, but you probably know what it is in Fahrenheit. So we need a specific type of, or kind of temperature, level of temperature, for the human being to feel comfortable, yeah? And we need oxygen, and we need food, and we need water, and all these things. And then we have the bodily reactions if we have too much or too little. So while I've been here, I've been quite happy. Sometimes I'm quite happy inside the house because it's a little bit too warm, so I have to go and cool off. But in Denmark, I would feel, I might have to turn on the heat a little bit. Not yet, probably, but soon I will have to turn on the heat a little bit because we don't have as nice temperatures as you have over here. So we can adjust so that I am not lacking what I need to feel warm and comfortable. Yeah? And so with spiritual needs, we have love. We have justice, we have harmony, and we have freedom and security, and all of the things that you can think of that goes with love. And so, can you ever have too much love? No. So it's not exactly the same as with the physical and the chemical needs, yeah? You can never have too much of it. But where does the spiritual needs appear? What is the entrance of spiritual needs? If you have the channel, where does spiritual needs go? Where does love go in the human being? In the thoughts, in the mind. So spiritual needs only exist in our thoughts. Yeah? You cannot weigh love, you cannot measure it, you cannot hold it in your hand. It is only a thought. And so what does this thinking, what does it do to us? Can we have too little love? Yes. Can we have just a little bit of love and be fine? I mean, you can live on a little bit of food and a little bit of water and still survive for quite some time. Yeah? But can you have a little bit of righteousness? Why not? Why is it not possible? Because if you have a little bit of righteousness, but have a little bit of unrighteousness, then is the righteousness really righteousness? No. You see, love is either 100% love, or it's not love. Yeah? The need of love must be fulfilled how much? 100% all the time. And what happens when the need of love is not fulfilled? Depression? Disease. So we can never have too much love. And when we do not have enough love, when we have too little, we will experience depression, anxiety, anger, and all kinds of diseases. Now, of course, then we have to ask ourselves, how do we deal with these thoughts? Where do they come from? And I know last night I had a little bit of a small chat after the meetings. Because the question is, of course, one thing is that we can read some things in the Bible about how things work, and then we can interpret those things according to our preconceived ideas. And when you go to America, there is less objection when I tell you that the human being has a spirit. But where I come from, in a very secular country, and I tell the scientists or the atheists that I work with that the human being has a spirit, he will look at me as if I'm crazy. Yeah? So it's a good idea to have some very firm arguments of why we believe what we believe, because I can even go to the church in Denmark and tell the people at my church that the human being has a spirit. And immediately they will call me a heretic because they think I believe the spirit lives on forever and is eternal. Yeah? So we need to know exactly why we believe and how we've come to this understanding of what we believe. And we can only do so if we apply the things that we observe in nature, the laws that we find in nature. So the question I want to ask is, do the thoughts come from the brain? Can the brain think? No. There's a wide agreement here that it can't. I'm preaching to the choir. And now we have a little bit of Danish teaching here, I say. I didn't see that before. So it says, hvad består hjernen af? And it means, what does the brain consist of? In the end, it consists of chemicals. And nerves, you say? Yes, and what does the nerves consist of? Chemistry. Chemicals in the end, yeah. And so we need to know the limitations of chemistry. We have chemical reactions, and they cannot start by themselves. They're always dependent on external factors. You know, everything that happens inside of the human being, inside of the human body, is just a chemical reaction. Even the nerve function, when you go to the end of the nerve, you have chemicals. Yeah? So we got to know that somebody has to start this chemical reaction in the body. It cannot start by itself. The other thing with chemical reaction is that they always have the same outcome. So if my fellow scientists in Denmark, they were right, we would never need an alarm clock because we would always wake up at the right time. We would never need to decide to go and find some food because we would always be fed. You see, we would never be able to invent anything because the process of thought would always be the same. It's just an impossibility. Every chemical reaction always has the same outcome. Now, chemicals have the ability to absorb and store and transmit energy and information. So they're not useless at all, but they cannot do so by themselves. Somebody must guide the chemical reaction. Somebody must put the chemical reaction into, must start the chemical reaction. And with chemical elements, we know that they have no consciousness. Yeah? If you pick up a stone, do you find there the cognitive ability to think? No. And they cannot make any choices. They have no spiritual needs. I know that there are some people that believe that we have to talk to our plants and hug the trees and stuff like that. But I think you spend only a little bit of time in nature and use your reason a little bit, and you find it's an impossibility. And then we have the limitation that chemistry cannot move itself. I like to always ask, so what's the difference between a thirsty plant and a thirsty girl? You see, the girl will run to the water and quench her thirst, yeah? And the plant will stand where he always stood. He cannot travel to a more humid destination. He cannot give himself water. He must die. Unless somebody sends the rain or comes and waters him. Yeah? And chemical elements cannot self-destruct. See, the human being is capable of self-destruction. I don't know if you would call it a capability, but the human being can self-destruct. Chemicals cannot rebel. They must always follow commands. So if you want a peaceful house, you just don't invite anyone with a spirit. Yeah? And then you will always have your peace. So also, what does the law teach us about the difference between a living person and someone who is dead? How do you measure if someone is living or dead? Sorry? There's no thought process, but can you measure thought processes? You measure the physical or the electricity in the brain, yeah? Now, who must produce the electricity? Someone says God. Someone up here knows it all. Can the brain produce its own electricity? How do we know that? By principle, how do we know that? It's a chemical element, and what is the limitation of chemical elements? Yes, so that's true. But what is also the? If you look to the law, what is the deal with all channels? Is the brain a channel? Is the brain of the human being a channel?
Sure. Yes.
Yes. Is there anything in the world that's not a channel? No. Everything in nature works like a channel. And what happens with all channels? They need to take resources from outside because they cannot produce them themselves. So the brain can never produce its own electricity. Someone else must produce the electricity of the brain. And since God is not responsible for what I think, would it be a sad thing if God was responsible for my thinking? I think so, because my thinking is not always very nice. I would not make God responsible of that. So we must have something in us that is responsible for the thinking, but it has to be something that is outside the brain, because all things works as a channel. And so someone must produce the electrical energy that the brain needs. Because the brain will not function without electricity. Yeah? Without electricity, we declare the patient dead. So someone must produce the electricity that makes the human being go. Now, another nice idea that helps us understand, or proof that helps us understand, that the human being has a spirit is that it lives from spiritual information. You see, every day when we wake up, the first thing we look for is what? Information. The first thing we look for is love. Now, if I ask you what is more important, food or love, what will you answer? I had someone once, I remember, and they said food. I thought, oh, that's very interesting. But, well, actually, it was a young lady. I think she just didn't think too much before she answered. But yes, it could have been a man, maybe, I don't know. But and then I thought I might ask another question. I want to ask you. So, what's more important, food? No, sleep or love? Now, if you have your very loving children around you, will you be satisfied and you don't need sleep anymore? No? You want sleep over the love of your children? Yeah, something is wrong with us. But I tell you, if you ask a girl who's in love if she would rather stay awake and be in touch with her girl or her boyfriend, or if she would like to go to sleep, do you think that she would prefer the sleep over the company of her boyfriend? She would prefer the boyfriend, of course. It's just when the source is not as nice as the boyfriend, or if the boyfriend doesn't stay nice for a longer period, then maybe she would prefer sleep later, yeah? Because the value of the other one goes down when we've been around them for some time. But the spiritual beings, they live from information. We live from harmony, security, liberty, orientation. I like a good way of orienting myself. We live from understanding, from happiness. From what kind of happiness, though? From our happiness or from the happiness of others? But how should it be? Should we live from the happiness of others, or should we live from the happiness of our own? It's a good question, is it? If I live from the happiness of others, then what happens to me when they are not happy? I tell you, this week, I was around unhappy people. And I do not become nice. I want everyone around me to be happy and smiling all the time. And if they don't, You know, in the beginning, I just make a little bit of joking because maybe I'll have them smiling. And then I try a little harder, and I'm like, are you all right? And then the pressure comes when the other one doesn't obey my need of happiness. Yeah. You see, it's very, very faulty when we live from the happiness of others, but we don't do so with a choice. We need loyalty and faithfulness and curiosity and knowledge. We need affirmation and rewarding, righteousness, truth, responsibility, morals, wisdom, appreciation and recognition, and joy and peace, and all things we can think of that is under the umbrella of love. Now, I came to think when I was making the slides, I wanted to have changed the picture of the little kittens into a dog, because the Sandoval family just got another member, a tiny little dog. And the other night when I was here, and I think, was it maybe the night that I came? I think I came late, yes, and we had a long talk inside the house, a very good talk. But on the outside, you could hear this little eef, eef, eef. And it just got louder and louder and louder until she was screaming. I've never heard a dog that unhappy before. And she's very young, of course. She's only, I think, is she 3 weeks or 4 weeks old? 4 weeks old. And normally, I think you wait removing the little puppies or the kittens until they're 8 weeks or something like this. So she was out of her element, because the people or the love that she lives from normally, it was gone. She was all on her own, and she was complaining very loudly. Now they have a couple of temporary family members as well, because they had to move some of the other puppies so that they could all be together until she grows up a little bit, so she can more easily handle the loss of her love source. But when we take away the source of love from the dependent being, he must destroy himself. He must destroy himself. See, everything we look for every day is love. Whatever you do it to obtain love. If you do your job well, you do it so that nobody complains, or you do it to satisfy your parents, or you do it to satisfy even God. Whatever you do it so that you may obtain love from the sources around you, or from what you consider to be love sources around you. So proofs that the human being has a spirit. We can see that without a spirit, we would have no consciousness. There would be no awareness. There would be no spiritual needs. There would be no sensory perception. Because who smells? Does the nose smell? The nose is made of chemicals. It cannot perceive the information it takes in. The nose can transport the information of smell, but the human spirit must perceive the smelling, or the scent, you can say. Without a spirit, we would have no thoughts. Without a spirit, we would have no judgment. Because could you ever accuse a being of his deeds if no one was to control those deeds? Would he have responsibility? Or could he say, oh, my brain did it? Yeah? If we are just chemical reactions, then we have no responsibility. Because chemical reactions are set. You would have no possibility of doing anything but what your brain told you. There would be no judgment, there would be no responsibility, there would be no morals or ethics, because everyone would just do what he found to be good. There would be no spirituality, there would be no ability to move around. So, by this we must know that man was created of two components. And we know that also from the Bible. We can find Bible texts that support the evidence of nature, that man was made by God from the breath of life and the dust of the earth. But what we now say, at least in the more, I think even in the conservative church, is that the dust of the earth becomes the human body, and then the breath of life becomes, they don't even take it into consideration, yeah? But the breath of life must become a very complex spirit, and we have a very complex body. The function is very simple. but the components and all things working together are very complicated. And together those two make up a living soul. So apart from each other, we will not have a functioning spirit. The spirit can never function without a body. It's an impossibility, because you need the brain to be able to think. But without a spiritual component to the human being, you cannot think. So there must be both of them. You can never be one without the other one. There's no eternal spirit floating around somewhere, but without a spirit, you cannot have a thought. It's an impossibility. Now we learned that there are two types of needs in the human being, but in general, when you look to nature, there are two types of needs everywhere. We have what I called function-generating needs, like something that initiates and drives the function, creates the electrical impulses for an electrical circuit. And if we take a car, a gasoline car, we have the spark plug. I learned this morning that it's called a spark plug. And before we have the spark plug, what do we have? In this modern day and age, you don't even need a key, you just have a button. You have a starting button. And you want to press the button, and then the spark comes from the spark plug, and then you have the engine going. And then my question would be, what is the starting button? What is the starting place, the beginning of the human being? We must know, where does the human being start, so that we know how to control him well. If we don't know where he starts, we cannot make the function go well. If we don't know where the button is, then what can you do? You can do nothing. You will drive your vehicle in blindness, or you will not drive it at all. Now we have also function-maintaining needs, which are the needs that make the electrical circuit going on, the supply of external resources. And in the car, of course, this is the chemistry or the fuel. And what would it be in the human being? Oxygen, food, water, whatever you need of chemical things to have your car going. Now, which do you think is the weightier matter? Is it more important which kind of chemistry you put into the human being, or is it more important to know what generates function in the human being? What generates function? And what do we speak of more in the church than anything else? The opposite. So I've never found a church like the Adventist church. It's like almost broccoli can save you. Did you know? I attended a seminar at home with a lovely guy that I care much about, but he said something that I found profoundly unwise. He said that because we are from conception with a bad nature, and this bad nature is, of course, quite unruly, and if you feed it the wrong thing, it becomes more unruly. Is that true or not true? Yes. So if you feed the human being lots of bad things, he's more likely to be on the outside unruly. Yeah? Now, but if you feed him broccoli, he becomes more holy. Have you heard that? I mean, even if they don't say it indirectly, they say it indirectly. I was sitting at the seminar and I thought to myself, Lord, keep my heart, because it provokes me so much. It provokes me so much. I had a period of time where I almost cursed broccoli because I see how we tend to put the focus on something that does not bring salvation. And it just, this temper of mine, I need to learn some more things about how to guide my function. But it provokes me so much that the thing we spend the very most time on is discussing whether to put diesel or gasoline in the car. But is that really the health message, though? I think this is the health message misunderstood. it is significant what we do to the human body. It's very significant. No doubt about it. But if we would focus on why we put the wrong thing in the body, instead of what we put in the body, how holy would we have been by now? Very holy. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But I'm hoping, with Mark's help, and yours as well, to change the world. So, what generates function and what sustains it? We have the spirit of the human being, and we have the brain cortex and the limbic system. And from there, maybe you notice here the two hemispheres of the brain are disconnected, but from underneath the limbic system, underneath the brain, we have the cords of the brain, and they cross over. So one hemisphere of the brain supplies the need of the other side of the body. You would say the contralateral, but that's some medical expression. And the other side of the brain, so the left side of the brain, for example, controls the right side of the body, and the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. And now, where do we have the soul of the human being? The soul is the combination of spirit and body. And it is exactly where the brain and the spirit works together. Because this is where a man thinketh. So where a man thinketh is the soul. Without a spirit, you have no soul. Without a body, you have no soul. When you have a spirit and you have a body, the two of them together makes up a third element, which is the soul. And we have the thoughts, and the thoughts produces the electrical impulses and supplies the rest of the body with the electricity. And in the beginning of the human being, we have the intake of information. And now when the generation is, or the function is already going on, we have the physical and the chemical needs coming in. Because when Adam woke up, when God made him, what was his first action? Thinking or eating? Can you eat without thinking first? It's not possible. You must have an already functioning being before he can take the apple and bite it. So the question is, who is responsible for the fulfilling of our needs? When we look to the law that needs to govern all things, or that governs all things, then who has the responsibility? Can anyone fulfill your need of food? No. Can anyone drink for you? No. How is the need of love fulfilled, and by who? You take it. So responsibility of fulfilling the need of love is with the spirit of man. Yes. And how does he fulfill it? He must take it from outside in order to be able to give it. Yes. So does man live from the action of taking, or does he live from the action of giving? No. So you can never give before you take. But what makes the electrical impulse in the human being? The taking or the giving? No. No. What makes, how can I explain that? Let's take the human heart. Let's take the human heart. You have, the physical, not the spiritual heart, but the physical human heart. Right. Does the heart live from the blood that comes into the heart, or from the blood that he pumps out? Do you know? You're laughing. Do you know? No. No. The blood that comes into the heart is what? With oxygen or without oxygen? Can you live from blood that has no oxygen? No. So does the heart live from the blood that comes into it? Or does it live from the blood that is going out of it? Oh, I am challenged. It's very good. Yes, and when does the oxygen supply come to the heart?
After it's gone to the lungs.
After it goes from the lungs and into the heart? No. What supplies the human heart muscle with oxygen? You see, okay, it would have maybe been easier if I had an illustration up there, but we have the heart and it has these big vessels in and out. Now, when the heart takes in the deoxygenized, I need Mark up here to tell me the English words. Sorry? Deoxygenated. Oh, that's also a very long word. Deoxygenated blood, it comes into the cavity of the heart, or I don't know if you say the cavity, the atrium and then the ventricle. Then it goes to the lungs to have the supply of oxygen. Then it goes back into the heart in order to pump out the blood and supply the rest of the body. Now, from this outpumping, we have little vessels that goes around the heart. They're called the coronary arteries. Those are the ones that gets plugged sometimes, and then we have to have an operation or whatever we need. And the little supplying arteries that goes around the heart are not supplied with the oxygenized blood before the heart makes the pumping action. You see? So the human being may take information, but if the information doesn't go out the other end, he does not live. I shared it last year as well, and it's just a silly little line, but I like it so much. You see, because I like when things are easy to remember. And so when you look to the apple tree and you see no apples and it has, only dry leaves and it looks like just a little thing standing in the desert, it has stopped giving. We can agree? There's no giving. So when something stops giving, it stops living. If we do not give the love that we have taken, we do not function. Now, God is very gracious. He puts us to function artificially. When the fall came, he put us on the ventilator, and he said, now you're on the ventilator for a certain period of time, and this is probation. So now we have some time to get our things in order. But in reality, when the human being stops giving, he stops living. Function does not come to us, life does not come to us if the love, the blood of love, or the life, I don't know how you say it, if the blood doesn't come out of the heart, there's no supply. If the love does not come out of the human being, there is no life. But you see how God made nature very nicely so that we can see exactly how we function by looking to nature. I find it so lovely. And with the law and nature, if you go to explore, you will find that everything in your understanding will just expand. You will see the law everywhere, and your understanding will grow, and it will grow, and it will grow. And I believe it will grow in all eternity. But I'm not a very fast thinker, but I love to think, and I love to learn. And when I was younger, before university, I thought I would be a student forever. I would never have a job. I would just go to school and learn some more. Now that changed very much when I got into university, and I found that school can be quite hard, especially with a depression, because you can't remember anything, so you're trying and you never succeed. But I like learning so much, and you see with the law and the nature that God gave us around us, there is no limit to how much we can learn. And it pleases me so much. It satisfies my need of understanding and my need of learning, it satisfied my needs so much, and it makes me like God very, very much. Now, just to summarize a little bit about the spirit of man. We know now that the spirit of man produces the thoughts of the human being, and he lives from information that he must take in from outside. He works like a channel he must take in order to be able to give. And he governs himself from the inside and is closed to the outside. So there's an entrance into the spirit, but only the spirit governs that entrance. And only the spirit governs the exit of the spirit as well. No one can enter the spirit of another person, because if they could, we would not have a responsibility for the thinking that we do. If someone could enter my spirit and put a thought there, then I would not be responsible for my thinking anymore. And if I am not responsible for my thinking, how can God ever judge me? Because someone could have put the thought in my mind. So the spirit must be open in both ends, but he is open only in the way that he must govern both entrances, or the entrance and the exit. Okay? And this is why the spirit can never be forced, but only negotiated with. If you can make the spirit believe that you have something that he needs, you can sometimes negotiate with him. Yeah, I have this very much in my job in the municipality. As I told you last night, I work as a dentist, and I have had 2 jobs. I was recently let go from my one job because my boss wanted that I should work some more hours, and I didn't want to let go of the other job. So in the end, she ended up letting me go and hiring someone else. But I had 2 jobs, and in one practice, I mainly take care of the adults, and in one job, I mainly take care of the children in the municipality. And most of my day is made up of negotiating with spirits. Especially the 2 days that I work in the municipality, because how many children likes to go to the dentist? Not so many. I had once a child, and I told him he had a cavity, and he said, "Yes, now I can try to have drilled in my tooth." And it's the only child I've ever met who said anything like that. Most of my day is made of negotiating with a child, trying to persuade him that he needs treatment. And how is it if you put pressure on the spirit, how does it act? It puts pressure back, yeah? So some children are very reactive outwardly, and they just run off. I had a few patients that just ran off, just went out the chair and out the room, and they were gone. And I had some that yelled at me or screamed at me. And I had also sometimes just the ones that put pressure, but only inside themselves, and you can see how they fight. Maybe not so much with me, but with mother or father, usually mom, because mom likes to put pressure to make the child obey. But I remember even a father that I believe this family was very much into the idea of mindfulness. I don't know, is this a thing also in the US? Probably it comes from here, because it's called mindfulness even in Denmark. And it's this idea that if you just talk enough about the subject, then in the end you can reason with the child and convince the child. I guess that's the idea, at least. And I saw this young girl, and she was lying in the chair, and she so wanted to obey her father. And why would she like to obey? Because she loves him, or because she needs him? Because she needs him to be happy with her, yeah? So the girl was putting pressure on herself, and she was fighting, and in the end, the tears come. Because why? Because she's fearful. And what weighs more, the fear or the love she needs from her father? The fear. You cannot take away the fear, So there was this fight going on inside the child. And so sometimes you can negotiate. I remember when I was a child, when you take the pacifier from the child, sometimes you have to negotiate as well. And my sister was smart. She found my mom was trying to buy her, and she said, "So what do you want?" And she said, "Oh, she wants this for the doll, the wagon, the stroll for the doll." And then my mom came to me, and she was like, "What am I going to do? How can I help this young girl?" Well, it must have been before my sister, but still she came and she asked me, "So what do you want?" And she asked, "Do you want a stroll? Do you want a doll? Do you want..." And she named all these beautiful and wonderful things. But I'm a very simple-minded person. And in the end, she gave up, she says, "Well, what can I give you to give up your pacifier?" And I said, "Well, you give me a mandarin." And so I traded my pacifier for a mandarin. I was not exactly the most brilliant child, but I was quite easy. Yeah. So if you have something that the Spirit believes he needs, you can negotiate with him. But if he does not see that what you have to offer him is nicer than what he has already, then you can do nothing. And then we must know also that the Spirit is always active, it's never passive. And it means that no matter what you do, no matter the time of the day, you always have a thought. And what is it with thought? They are either for the good or for the evil. So every day, every second of our lives, we have thoughts. And if these thoughts do not bring us on a good path, giving us the right electricity in our bodies, they destroy our bodies. And this is why it's so important to understand what happens in the human being so that we can learn to control ourselves, that we may have only good thoughts. Now, the output of the Spirit, as we have talked about, is the intake of the body. So we have the brain cortexes and the two hemispheres. And from there, from the cortex, we have to the limbic system some cords, some nerves. And the thoughts of the Spirit produces the electrical impulses. And then we have the supply to the rest of the body. So it means that whatever you think will control everything you say and do and feel. So what comes first? Emotions or thoughts? Thoughts. Always thoughts. What comes first? Disease or thoughts? Thoughts. Now, the output of the body is emotions, bodily reactions, and actions. And we have an issue when we have a lack of love. Now, in the situation with this young girl, she was very unhappy and under pressure because her father wanted to obey, and she even wanted to obey herself. But could she obey? Was it a possibility? Does she disobey by choice or by no choice? With no choice. So by no choice, we have a lack of love. And this lack of love produces in us bad emotions, loss of self-control, and disease. And it makes us suffer. And so we want to learn how to deal with the suffering, how to reverse the suffering so that we may become better. Yeah? Now we will be talking a little bit about choice later today, but I think just in the end, in the nighttime or in the evening. And we have to find out what is this error, what is it that makes us void of love, what is it that makes us not being able to love, but also what is it that makes us not able to take in love, yeah? And we will be looking at that later this morning. And I think that's it for now.
All right, so it's time for our breakout groups. Some of you were here last night, some of you were not. So those of you that were not, what we're doing is we're going to transition into separating into groups. Looks like we have enough to do a couple of groups over here and probably 3 groups over on this side. And we have some questions. I'm going to pass one out to each group so that you have those and you can discuss them amongst yourselves. And the questions are, 1, what are the evidences that humans have a spirit? 2, how are the needs of the spirit fulfilled? And then, do you know yourself? Do you see where you expect others to fulfill your need of love? And who do you have the greatest expectations from? Right? Who do you have your greatest expectations from? So go ahead and break out into your groups, and I'm going to come around and hand you the papers, and we'll have a discussion for about 12, 13 minutes, and then I will close us off, and then we'll have a break, and then at 11:15, Dr. Barton is going to be presenting next.